sky right before my eyes, just like the sea moves me every time, calling to me, begging me. Reality reminds me I still want you. I want you. I still want you.
Hey, yo's, I'm Crit,
I'm Vi.
And I'm Donato.
and welcome to Island Fever, where grown-ass Pasifika people talk about doing grown things. And today we are gathered here to answer the overarching question, why is storytelling important? And to do that, we brought the man who single-handedly put the PI and AAPI for AAPI Heritage Month, Jay Taj. What's up?
How you doing?
Hey.
Single-handedly is a crazy claim.
I mean, it's kind of true though, right? I was like,
Don't lie.
I saw other people doing their thing.
who?
You really made it a moment and really went in deep and hard on a lot of like.
We've been on for 30 seconds.
Like weaving through the stories of Pasifika communities that many of us know about, but you just gave it that extra nuance. Like I had a friend reach out to me and was like, hey, do you know this person? Also, I did not understand like what happened at like in the Bikini Islands. And wow, that really just opened my heart and my eyes. And this is a person that is a modeling coach. And she's like, I'm gonna refrain from
Yikes.
referring to swimsuits now as bikinis because of your video.
That's crazy.
I'm like, period. And that's
What
an
a thought.
impact.
Yeah, what a thought. Yeah, I guess I mean I know that it performed well. I'll say that.
Oh, he's on
But there was
ball.
certainly other people. There was a few other creators that I saw making some great content, and I think that I did have a bit of a cheat code with like a pre-existing audience that was highly engaged. Sure, if you think I did it single-handedly, I'll receive that. But
No, I mean, what I'm saying is like no one else was, like you really stood out from the crowd, you know? I wasn't following anyone else's content during the month, and I don't think I ever have during the month, to
Right.
be honest.
Yeah.
But, you know, people were like, oh shit, what's he posting today? And I would see it multiple times across so many people's stories.
Yeah.
And I don't follow many people, so it's like,
Right.
because you know, y'all be posting all sorts of bullshit that I don't really want to read. But, you know, I was like, that's really my like, my standard for like, do I want to follow this person? Like, is it stuff that inspires me, or is it, you know, feeding my spirit, or just, you know, like adding something to the bullshit that's out there, right? And so I was like, oh, you know what? This is cool.
It was so intentional too. I think that's what's exciting about it is like, what better month than, you know, our month to emphasize our stories.
Right.
And I mean, even me on my own social media, like I had that intention, but to do it consistently every day,
Ooh.
it was rough.
that's a different level of intention and
Shit.
impact.
It was rough. That was the hardest part, was the consistency. But what you said about the sort of you have these thresholds of what works for you. That was the way I was writing these stories was very formulaic with that in mind.
Yeah.
Like the way that people respond to different things, and there was like a structure to every script that was exactly the same every video.
Yeah.
I followed a same structure even in the body of the story. There was always the exact, like if you took every story and put the scripts, I can divide them up.
Yeah.
That there's the hook, there's the intro, and then in the body I talk about the history, and then I say there's this thing that draws you back to the hook. But all of these things, even the things that seemingly are not connected beyond the Pasifika diaspora, most of the topics I talked about, I hooked you with something that people beyond the Pacific Islander community would be familiar with.
Right.
So something like bikini, or, you know, even when I did, you know, hero highlights about, you know, maybe Cliff Curtis or something. I started with the most famous picture beyond, you know, Uncle Bully or like the things that we know.
Oof, you don't want to talk about Uncle Bully with
Yeah,
Cliff
yeah.
Curtis, by the way.
Right. No, I know. And so I like purposely, I was like, I'll let the comment section do
Yeah.
that, you know, but for me, it's like, I'm going to take this Chicano image. Plus there's that thing that I know my following knows me for, like LA street shit.
Right.
So this face is going to be familiar to them, hook them, and then I'll tell them a story they've never heard.
Yeah.
And then I think that when I realized that worked very well with the bikini one, I tried to find stories that, without changing the story or morphing it in a way that worked in this way, I just had to go through story after story to be like, oh shit, there's a thing that maybe, one of my friends who is nowhere near any of these stories would be interested in, because in the first few seconds, there's something that they agree with, or something that they think about, or something that they, co-sign or are interested in, and it worked. So it's interesting that you said that, because it became a very deep part of the formula.
Yeah, and also just the editing was slick too, right? Because I think for me to, I'll listen to something if someone has personality, or the storytelling is good. But if it looks kind of janky, I'm more likely to be like, oh, can you put some lip champ on? Like, I can't.
That's so real.
All I'm looking at is these fucking croissants. Like,
That's so
looking.
real.
Let me ask, what is a version of like bad storytelling or something that turns you away beyond dry lips?
Dry lips is a big one. You're not gonna catch me out here looking like that. But I will say, just if someone's not succinct and they're rambling, or I think the inverse of what turns me off is this well thought out, is a research that's like, oh shit, like, okay, like this is something that even though I might know the information, it's being told to me in a way I haven't seen it before, and I think I didn't know everything that you're putting up there, even for me. I'm
I
just,
know it doesn't work for me, and I think that played a big role in how I was writing. It was like so many of the videos I would see, especially on this stuff.
Yeah.
The intro was the first thing that you get to the video, and this is just like social media 101.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you would get to the video, and it would be like, hey guys, today we're gonna talk. I don't care.
Right.
Yeah. You've already lost me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first 3
And
seconds.
so I don't know you. I don't care what you're talking about. There's nothing about the first 3 seconds that convinced me that there's something valuable for me to stay here and listen to. And so I avoided, on the very first video that I put out on day one, I did that. And I looked back at it like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Yeah.
This only worked because I had a built-in following. But now I'm seeing in the data how many people that don't follow me, have never heard of me, are watching these videos. I have to serve them, and I have to give them something that is interesting, that isn't me, because it's not about me, right? And it's not about my opinion. It's not about centering myself in this story. It's about the story, And I think that a lot of times when people are doing talking head videos, they kind of take the old talking head YouTube approach, and it's just like, what's up, y'all? Welcome to my channel. And it's like, I don't care. Anyways, next.
I think I would argue that, like, it's nice to see your personality in it, and because you did say that a lot of the videos are your opinions, right?
But that was a defense mechanism.
Oh.
Because I knew I was gonna get some research wrong.
Yeah.
And I knew I was gonna inadvertently share tones that made my position obvious, right? And so I had to be clear that I do not speak for Pasifika people.
Right.
I'm speaking on behalf of these Pasifika stories, and I'm creating space to share these stories. But if I took the position of like, this is fact, I'm putting myself in dangerous territory. So I had to give myself space to be like, yeah, sometimes it's just my own point of view.
Yeah.
Just to defend myself from anyone being like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And there was a lot of people who were in the comments, you're wrong about this.
Yeah.
But
And
that's
so-
kind of the gift of good storytelling, right? It's like, it doesn't necessarily have to be all factual. It's your interpretation and how you tell
Period.
Yeah.
that captures people in, right? Because we could be up here and I could probably put y'all to bed on talking about a basic ass book, but the way that I deliver it, you might feel engaged even if you know the ending of the same story, which I've slowly started to learn on social media. Is like it's a lot about delivery, tone,
Yeah.
Melody. There's a rhythm
personality.
and a
Like,
melody to
goddamn, I feel like I'm having to perform sometimes.
Yeah. No, and I think to that point, the rhythm of the videos is something that I got used to and I want to come back to, and it did help it flow a lot. And to go back to your point that you made before, I think for me, I do want to sway the way people think about things, So
No, certainly my approach wasn't absent of trying to influence the point of view.
Yeah.
Right. But I didn't just like start with that.
Yeah.
And I think in my tone, in calling, like I had consistencies in calling colonizers ugly and like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like there was like these things where it's like, okay, I clearly see
Right.
his position on colonialism. I clearly see his position on, land back rights and things like that. Like this is clear, but the video is not really about that. He kind of just shares his position in this straight up facts. Like I'm just listing facts or as close to the facts as I can find online.
Yeah.
And it worked. And it worked like in ways I could have never expected, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the rhythm of it is what kept me going. And I think for me, I immediately connected that with you as an artist, as a recording artist, as a rapper. And I was like, I'm sure that, like, particularly the rap you do, like, helped inform the way that you articulated everything. Yeah,
that's not even like, I feel like a lot of rappers would say that, but it is like, I can break it down how integrated my songwriting style is in this little Instagram 3-minute video writing style.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the same way I write songs.
Right.
In music, there's sections and there's tension and release and there's repeatability.
Right.
And like you have moments that you know people are going to remember, they're going to quote, this is how you write music. And when you're writing like a little 3-minute Instagram piece, maybe not in the beginning, but once I started to understand the structure of these scripts, it just kind of looked a lot like a record.
Right.
You know, it looked a lot like a song, at least from a linear standpoint.
Yeah.
When you kind of make it into this visualized linear format, it looks a lot like the records that I write.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily the subject matter or anything like that, but just the consistency of pacing, pace, intro, hook, verse, outro.
Right.
You know, and it was always that same, and and once I got into that rhythm, everything just came super easy, and it did feel like songwriting, something that I was struggling with for like a year and a half. Going into this,
Wow.
So it kind of gave me this sort of feeling of healing, if you will, of like, oh, I'm a writer still.
Yeah.
You know, in moments when I wasn't necessarily feeling like a writer so much anymore.
I'm curious to hear a little bit more about how young Jay Taj was as like an early like writer and rapper.
And storyteller. What kind of
'cause that's
stories
where your
was little
storytelling
Jay
starts, right?
Taj
Yeah.
telling?
Yeah.
Tell us.
The rapper started there's a very specific moment in my life where I ran into my sister's room, and I had to have been like 9 or 10 years old, and some shit had happened on the block where I kind of, for lack of better terms, I got bullied, right? And everybody was clowning me over something, and I was so pissed off, and I couldn't whoop everybody's ass, so I came home, and my instinct for some reason was to write like a poem about it or something, right? And
Oh, you had a burn book?
Wow.
That was the original burn book.
so I came in my sister's room and I opened the door and I was like, I wrote a song. You want to hear it? And she's like, no. So I sang it to her anyways. And I remember specifically it had the melody of, this is bad. It had the melody of the verse of I Believe I Could Fly.
Oh, hell no.
Had the same melody, right? Had the same melody. Yeah.
See, I can sing some.
Come on
All
with
right
it.
now.
And so then I told some story about these people that was fucking with me, and I was like, "What you think?" She's like, "Literally, never do that again."
Oh wow.
and so I was like a kid, and she was a kid too, and so that was like my first memory of using words on paper to maybe create a mechanism to cope with an experience, right? Or like to put an experience in a space that was outside of my own existence, right? And it just lived somewhere else. So that was the first memory. But rapping, probably like not long after that, maybe in the 5th or 6th grade, I fell in love with performing first. And like I just wanted to be in front of people doing shit.
Yeah.
And I would memorize like rappers that my classmates had never heard of, right? Like the Booyah Tribe, or like B-side Nelly records, or like South Park Mexican from Texas, like, and then I would get into these situations where we be at like a community function, and of course somebody be like, who are the rappers at? And I get up on stage and do my thing, rapping a Gangsta Red verse that I had no business rapping this fucking verse about whooping and trooping and all that.
Yeah.
And then that kind of snowballed into like my small community around me began to like look at me like a rapper. Like, oh, Jay's the rapper, or Jerry at the time. Jerry's the rapper kid. He's the rapper, you know, or he's the dancer, or he's the guy that just wants to get up and be in front of people, right? Was terrible at basketball, terrible at football, terrible at everything that all my cousins and all my homeboys were good at. except rapping. And rapping was just a thing that worked. And so by 13, I was writing my own rhymes, and we was in there trying to construct my own stories. And then I was blessed enough to have uncles on the Black side of my family that was in the studio, and they were rappers. And for my 13th birthday, my Uncle Ra, he picked me up and took me to the studio. And that you got to see yourself to be yourself type of realization is like hearing myself on a CD was like, whoa, shit.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? I'm on right now. You know, I'm at school
nothing.
handing out.
Y'all.
Right. Like that. You know, this is pre being able to, in a couple clicks, get your music out into the world. You had to have this physical manifestation of your art. And I was able to go to the mall and be handing out CDs of my shit that were just burned on CD-ROMs. But I was able to put a CD in, and through these speakers, the same speakers that I hear my favorite rappers in, I'm hearing myself.
Right.
And so it shifted the perception of self. And from that moment on, it was like, yeah, nobody's stopping me. I'm doing this now. And I was always just lucky enough to be a few steps ahead of everybody else that was trying to do it. And this has been a consistent thing, even if it's not on purpose.
Yeah.
It's like the packaging was just always a little bit more refined. And I think that shifted my community's perception of me, which shifted my perception of myself. And it kind of gave me a little pep in my step to just keep it pushing. And yeah, that beginning era was very like, for lack of better words, performative or performance centric.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to be on stage.
Building the skills
Yeah.
to the artist that you're evolving into.
Even when I didn't really have much to say, I just wanted to be up there saying shit, which is also reflects in how teachers would give reports to my parents about like he just be talking in class. And he just be doing everything that kind of centers attention around himself. Very, I don't want to say like attention seeking, but I guess there's not really a better way to describe it. Like I liked the attention. You know,
You're on the right couch. The performers.
Hello.
We're like the same person, different flavor.
Right.
I was that kid too. Recently, I shared this story on social media. Rest in peace to my dear sister, Leia Trices Ali, who recently passed away. But she and I, from a very young age, were like those dancer, like at the time when like Honey came out, you got served.
Oh, shit.
Like, mind you, this
Everybody
is
thought that
an
was-
American
Okay,
saga, where like we're getting a lot of these films later than like the US, right? But it created like this cultural like movement of kids wanting to just get out there and dance.
Period.
And she somehow, some way, kids were coming up to me at my elementary school and was like, "Oh, there's this girl. There's this other Fafafinga. She wants to battle you." And I'm like, "Oh, she wants to battle
wanna
me?
battle with
Oh,
me?
she better bring it."
Yeah.
On. It became this big thing that at the end of school, like we set a date and everything. By the time we got to that date, and like both schools that are very close to each other, if you're from Tafunga, you know Tafuna Manlele Tausala Junior High versus Kanana Fo. It was like the biggest thing in the 10 years.
Were these like organized shows? Like that?
No, that was straight call out.
Straight in the parking
like
lot.
a school, like a network of kids.
It was
just like
these barefoot kids on the
we were
in the field.
absolutely barefoot. and
Y'all was probably
like,
getting it though.
There was like this was a time where people were bringing their boom boxes to school, and you just put on the music and just dance.
Period.
Like looking back at those times, it was just wild because I remember at one point the music went off and we were still going hard, like our lives depended on it. And parents thought that we were
was
like
fighting.
unruly kids that were fighting,
Yep.
and we were just channeling our passions into performance.
Right. I remember that so vividly. Like I was also part of hella dance crews, and I was whatever mechanic I had to perform or move and do some sort of like performative art, right?
And so that's where you got that move from. Where you was in the-
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
We watched it last night, and we binged through the
Don't
whole
be telling him we
season.
watched the last night.
Damn, it's like that. That show's been out for 2 years.
That's why I don't remember. I'm like, I watched this a long time ago.
Real talk, she watched it a long time ago. I was like, I gotta watch it now. No, but like one of the things that really like I was having a difficult time accepting as part of the feedback that I was watching become your narrative was like almost like you were being punished for
being polished.
for being polished and
Yeah.
delivering at the level of excellence that you were.
Yeah.
And I was like, but he raised the bar every single time.
I appreciate
that
that.
performance was true. Like for me, I'm like,
I
that's
appreciate
a
that.
Grammy performance.
But yes, those moves come from the instinct of dancing.
Wait, I don't feel that way. They genuinely were saying you're polished, like they were like you're the winner. Like, you know, they were praising you right from the start. That's how I felt.
I do in retrospect, I wish, this sounds so crazy to say, but I wish that there was moments of like feedback for growth.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like sometimes I do feel like, you know, I was maybe set up in a way that's like you generated an expectation with the audience.
Right.
And, you know,
There's no room for any kind of error.
I don't know
Yeah.
how to say this, man, because it sounds so fucking arrogant, but it's like, like I want to grow too. I want to get better, you know. And if I'm watching back to my shit, I could pick 10 things.
Yeah.
That's like, that could have been better. That could have been better. But I think in the context of the show, and like maybe the playing field, no disrespect to my cast members, but in those moments, it's like, what do I say back to this? If I'm in the judges' seat in that moment, without knowing all the things that I know about myself, right? Then it's like, you're great. Anyways, next.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
But that's kind of on the judges too, though. They kind of feels lazy when, because they're fucking like been in the game for a long time. They're veterans.
Yeah, but how many people who are naturally just excel, whatever their field is, right? Because you have that, like you're well polished, you've got it all together. How many of those very strong people end up less support, less feedback in your case, right? Who are not getting asked, do you need help? Is there anything that you need? Because you've always been the one, which, I mean, it's not the same, but yes, it is the same in my head, right? The way it's computing is like, how many other J Taj are there in this industry, right? Who are just because you appear, you got it all together means that you can go to the wayside, and you who just started come to the front.
That's so real.
Right? And I think, at least in the therapy world, a lot of the processing I do with a lot of put together people, the ones who are strong and all of that, is about all of them unmet needs of not being seen or not being offered to be seen.
That's so real.
And I'm just like, when you said that, I'm like, yeah, what you said is not arrogant. It's vulnerable as fuck. I want to grow too.
Right.
Because what I did to get here is not just the stopping point, right? Help me get to the next point.
Right.
But I think a lot of people end up getting intimidated, and then they make assumptions about, you know, how well put together you are already, and everybody else behind you is struggling, right? So
I think
just sucks.
you're spot on, because another part of that thing that I've never talked about is just like the 20 years to get there was primarily an experience of solitude with no feedback. You know, until the art is already out there, and then you really only are ever gonna hear the feedback that's positive. Like, I mean, unless you just catch one of them like crazy viral waves when your comments are hella negative, but for the most part, like all the art that I'd put out for 20 years would land with the homies, and it was, I want to believe they weren't lying to me. It's good art. And then if anybody who didn't fuck with it, they would just kind of like move on. They wouldn't necessarily come and be like, yo, I didn't really fuck with that. So I finally subject myself to a platform or a forum where I am opening the door to criticism. This isn't just me playing a show where you buy a ticket to come and you're gonna get what you paid for. This is like the point of this environment is to subject yourself to criticism. And as much as I'm so grateful that the judges never really had anything constructive to say, it was very high praise, and I'm very grateful for that. And I think I'm proud of that. At the same time, I'm like, well, I'm looking back at my performances like, yeah, that was whack. Like, maybe you shouldn't have done that. You know, you're a little stiff. You're a little, you know, you maybe didn't prepare your vocal tracks right because you're running out of breath. But then if they were to say that to me, and then maybe the next contestant comes up and their situation is like significantly worse, then what do they say to them? Right? So you kind of have to, like as much as I think about this, I also don't give a fuck. So.
Yo, the first thing I want to say is that while you weren't getting like constructive feedback from your friends, like they're not in the same lane as you, right? So can they even do that?
Right. And sometimes when they do, you're very quickly reminded, oh, you're not from
Yeah, exactly.
Just shut the fuck
you don't
up.
know shit. Yeah,
Right. But you need a banger, bro. What you need is a club banger. What you need is something for the bitches. All right, thank you, bro.
Yo, but I mean, going back to how you said you were, you know, a few steps ahead of everyone all the time, right? Like, I feel like what a blessing it is to have family who really believe in you. You know, your uncle who took you to the studio. Like, not every uncle's doing that for their nephews, right?
Or even have the have the resources to do it.
Yeah.
Even if they want to.
Right.
You know? And then not just my uncles, my mama and my dad, and everybody was like, yeah, Jerry's got it.
Yeah.
Like, from a very early age. Like, this is his thing. My mama was taking me to like auditions for, music videos.
Yeah.
I auditioned for the Mace Breathe, Stretch, Shake video.
Oh my gosh.
And my mama was taking me to these auditions and stuff and taking me to these agencies trying to see if something could crack. You know what I'm saying? And this was also like a trend in the 90s. Like, people had like their tables at the mall, like, you could be a model.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my mama, she definitely, I don't know the term, she bit the bait in a lot of those situations. And then you're like, if I'm her, and you got this kid that loves performing, like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
This is our meal ticket out the hood,
Right.
So I'm very lucky to have her as well, even though sometimes she was annoying as heck. Like, my mama had this, she said this thing to me one time that I'll never forget, that I like tease her about these days, is she was like, so you're going to have to pick a lane. Either you're going to be a dancer, or you're going to be a rapper, or you're going to be a painter, or you're going to be one of these things. You have to pick one.
Right.
And now I look back like, joke's on you, mama. I'm everything.
You also, you talked about how at first your understanding or appreciation of performing very superficial, I guess, that's how it starts out for everything.
Sure.
Everybody who kind of pursues anything. When did it start to deepen as far as you having an awareness of the storytelling in it and that you needed it to get better, and you really wanted that to just improve and be the best that it could be?
I think just around the same time that as young men and women, we find ourselves being a bit more critical of like just how we operate in life in general, right? Like, we start to recognize that everything has cause and effect and consequence. And like, you start to, at least me and my homies, like around the same time, we all kind of started to want to do something meaningful. We all started falling in love around the same time. And we all started like, wanting to be using our existence for something more meaningful. And I feel like I'm lucky to be surrounded by homeboys that also possess that in whatever it is that they were doing. So for me, I would say like, like probably around the first time I got my heart broken was like when I realized that I have a tool here, because I made a record about it and I put it out, and my small community of like 50 listeners was like, this is such a great, like, I feel the same way. And then that kind of, reinforced, okay, this is actually the type of art that I want.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what I'm making, I would like to make something that is honest.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean that I'm always making records or art that is reflective of some sort of like critical moment, right? Or like, not everything is so introspective or deep, you know? And I feel like that part of my humanity also shows through in most of my art. Like, you look at someone like Tupac, for example, who on one record can make a record like Brenda's Got a Baby, and it's super critical and it's about community and the disparities among that. And then on the next record, it's like, I like the way you activate your hips and put your ass out.
Yeah.
And then on the next record, it's like, that's why I fucked your bitch, you fat motherfucker.
Oh my God.
But like all of these records, records are honest.
Yeah.
They're all part of his experience.
Yeah.
And that duality or that malleability, is that a word? Malleability?
Yeah.
Yeah, that being malleable in that way is part of my experience too. Some days I'm like, if you saw who I am with my shorty, it is very different from who I am with my Usos. Like, we are not the same person. I mean, these days, the line is way more. I'm not getting with my Usos the same way I'm getting with my shorty, but it is like
people catch glimpses of that.
Yeah, you'll get like the goofiness that you might get or the vulnerability you might get. These days in my adulthood, there's a lot less hard lines about who I am in different rooms.
Yeah.
But there is still, the reality is like, there is different versions of me that are all honest. And I think that around my high school, like sophomore year in high school, that part of accepting these different versions of myself was just part of my life.
Yeah.
And that also reflected in the music.
Yeah.
Was just being open to say whatever the fuck I needed to say in that moment. And I still prioritize that to this day. Is like, this is what I feel like I should talk about today or right now. Right? Even this little Puerto Rico video I just put out.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
Puerto Rico video.
Yeah, it was like a day or two ago, I put out another Pasifika Social Club video.
Yeah.
But I was in Puerto Rico and I was thinking about, Benito's record about Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a good place to talk about this, and just what does he mean by that? I bet a lot of people heard the record. And honestly, most Pasifika people who heard the record are not going to go out of their way to read the English translation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't I explain this to maybe the few people that don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah.
And also sharing that in that moment on that island, I did feel I ached for the Taino people, and I ached for them the same way I would for the Kanaka Maoli while I'm on Oahu. And so I used that moment to tell that story. Lo and behold, there were some people in the comments that are like, why you don't ever talk about Filipinos? And I'm like, okay, see, I needed to talk about this right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's my art.
Yeah.
Period, point blank. And if tomorrow I want to make a rap song about killing my enemies, that's how I feel in that moment. And I do have records like that. That looking back, I'm not the most proud of these records, but that's how I felt in that moment. And that's just the way it fucking
Listen,
goes.
like fucking Tupac in prison was a very different, and the shit that he went through is a very different Tupac from
Before that, yeah.
like growing up with a Black Panther,
Right,
his parents in this. So it's
But I think that we need to be more honest with ourselves about the duality so that people, number one, people are less, what's the term?
Surprised?
Yeah, not surprised, but like, so people feel less restricted in being all the different versions of themselves.
Yeah.
Like you'll actually heal the parts of yourself that you hate the more you explore those emotions. Right? Like you'll put yourself in a much better position to process the parts of yourself that you do not like if you just let yourself be those things for a second. And the more you see people that you love and admire doing that, the more you feel comfortable doing that, and then you put yourself in a space to like outgrow that bullshit. You know?
Right. You speak to this point, sorry sis, around like, I think for a lot of artists, you guys reflect culture, right? That's just part of it.
100%.
But there are also parts where I think you and your platform might also inspire what communities believe about culture, right? So like just this video, for example, it's a message that is sent to people who maybe have no insight, no perspective, but now you just planted a seed.
Right.
And I don't know if it's fair to say, but there's like responsibility in that, right? Like being so visible, being so open about your own thoughts, your own research. And I'm just curious, like, where have you found either struggles or joy in that creativity?
Man.
Or guards?
Oh man. I would say specifically in like there's instances in I think all of my art that I felt like nervous or something. I put out a record called Fairy Tales. And we don't have to go in deep about what part of my life that record is specifically about. But after I put the record out, I didn't like the feeling because it's a dark record as far as like the subject matter in comparison to the Lil Jerry demos, which came out right before that. The Lil Jerry demos is a much more introspective, honest record. And this is an honest record too, but I literally say, I'll kill you and put you in a body bag about, it seems like a very specific person I might be talking about. And that aches me because I felt like I might have been letting my listeners down. Like they don't never seen this side of me. So there's parts of my music that I felt that way, and I felt like, fuck, I have a responsibility to maintain a level of consciousness over how my words might impact the people that are listening. But then again, I combated that with like, but this is how I feel right now. And so at the end of the day, they'll either get with it or get lost, respectfully, and then moved on. In the AAPI video story world, I would say there was a handful of videos where either I recorded a whole video and never put it out because I just felt like this ain't the time for this, or also like there was days when the day I chose to highlight Cliff Curtis was because I was exhausted of like trauma stories. I was exhausted. I just didn't want to I also recognized in looking at the data how much of the audience was not Pasifika people. And they're like, I didn't know any of this. And I'm like, well, fuck, man, for 14 days straight, I've talked about fucked up shit. And this is not just who we are. We're not just victims of colonialism. We also have so much beauty to highlight that I'm like, God damn, bro, every fucking story is about how eventually the fucking Germans came. And eventually we got fucked. And so there was that, those moments where I felt a responsibility to not only change up the narrative for the audience, but also like relieve myself of like, man, it was like, I felt like how recovered addicts who work in recovery must feel sometimes. Like when their life is just revolved around the pain that these people they're helping is going through is something that they're familiar with, and they just have to relive that over and over every day. And so I imagine that cannot be always like, yes, you're there because this is what you want to do. You love this. You understand the position that you're in to help and influence positivity for these people. But at the same time, you got your own feelings, you know, and you got your own shit. Yep.
Yeah.
I will say too that there was some topics I did not feel like I had the right to talk about. And day 30 when I talked about Pasifika, and I was like, oh my God, I was so nervous about that.
Tell us more about that.
I was nervous, number one, that I would get something wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like this is one of the, I felt like a lot of the topics I was talking about, I think I might have told you guys about this off camera, but I felt like, I don't know if I felt like an outsider on the inside or an insider on the outside, but I always felt like one of those things in a lot of the topics, right? Because I'm a Chamorro kid, but I'm raised in my Black family, and I was raised far away from the culture as far as like feeling like if, you know, the way Chamorro shows up in your life instinctively is a learned experience for me. And I always feel like a guest in that environment, right? And that's just the way my life played out. So all the topics I felt like, okay, be careful because you are part of the community. It's like you're too close to say too much, but you're too far to not say enough. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making sense there, but like, it's like I teetered the line between white documentary filmmaker goes to the jungle to make a video about the Amazonians.
Here are the people.
Right. Yeah. I'm like somewhere between that and the Amazonian.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere in between that.
Yeah.
And I always felt like a little bit of pressure of like, be careful with what you say, because very quickly they can remind you that you're from the outside, right? And then when it came to speaking about gender, it was just like, this is a sensitive topic. It's a sensitive topic in the world, and it's a sensitive topic in our community. And there's also this fear that as an outsider, I may misrepresent something. And then I have another community that's like, yeah, fuck this guy, right? And so I was just scared. And I actually thought about calling you.
Are you sure? I
didn't know what the relationship was. And so I was like, like literally I'm scheduling it at like 11 p.m.
Yeah.
And I'm scheduling it for 6 a.m. the next morning. And I was like, do I know Crit well enough to be like, yo, can you just watch this and make sure I didn't say no dumb shit? You know, but then I said, fuck it, man. Like, look, I believed in my heart I did okay. Yeah. And, you know, I was very vulnerable in the record, that's crazy, in the script about like being like, look, we got to be careful with this. And I felt like that was important to say because I got to be careful with this. And and then there was the third fear. Yeah. You motherfuckers in the comments, I will not be a pathway for hatred. I feel the same way about people hating on Dre TL in my comments from Rhythm and Flow. Yeah. I'm not going to be a mechanic in your weird shit. So in talking about gender, I'm not stupid. I know a big part of my audience comes from Netflix, bro. Like we're talking about like, this is people from all walks of life, conservative, progressive, and everything in between. Right. So you might fuck around and get somebody in the comments like saying some wild shit. And I was scared that I might open the doors for people to be talking about my people in a way that's not appropriate, in my opinion.
A large part of your audience is from Netflix, and then a large part of your audience is hip hop, right?
Right.
Which is also like, you know,
homophobic as hell.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to make it clear that I was not talking about this topic for the sake of shock or virality. It was like, there's an opportunity here for someone to learn something, and you do with that what you will.
Let me just say, when I saw that specific post, like I rewatched it several times, but mostly because like, just from a place of like pride. Like I was like, this person is taking so much care to uplift the people I know day in and day out are those like caregivers, the people that lead with tautua and service that often get overlooked, right? And like, I'm getting a little emotional right now, but I just worked so hard on these lashes. But hey, Tosh, what also made me really proud of that video is because you are like someone of like my uncles and cousins that are cis men that move in this world with that love and care for our MVP FAF plus communities, right? And in a lot of ways, while as a Pasifika like person that speaks a lot about these issues, like sometimes I feel like that message needs to be heard differently from other folks.
I agree.
And so to see you lean in the way you did, I'm like, I know the way he's telling this story with deep care for Pasifika people is going to reach someone that I can't reach.
I just want to add that as far as, you know, having that fear, right, of fucking up, I would just say that's the only way you learn sensitivity is by fucking up. You know, like if you don't do it, you're never going to get to a better place. You know, like
I have, and you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Much of my position is from mistakes.
Yeah. Just, you know, it's okay to try and make a mistake. Do your best to be as caring as possible, but then also like be okay with saying sorry when you fuck up too. You know, that's all it takes.
So the same thing that made me scared is also the same thing that told me like you actually have an opportunity here to like you said, speak to an audience that probably would either A, never get this message, or B, get the message and be like, anyways, I don't care, right?
Real?
And I know that because I am one of them. I was once one of them who just like, it doesn't bother. It doesn't concern me. Like that's y'all shit over there. Yeah. And then as I've grown into my manhood, I realized the irresponsibility in that this is a collective human experience.
Yeah.
Regardless.
And that's what the responsibility for me is. Like, if you have a platform, you have to use it in a way, well, I would hope that you use it in a way that speaks to more than just yourself, you know, like for our people, and like how are you giving back to your people, you know, like that's what it is for me. And I feel like the series was just a great reflection of that. And so I think for me, again, going back to where you were at feeling like an outsider, like I was just like, who gives a fuck? Like you got to get over that because you got a platform,
listen,
you know,
brother,
and it's like,
listen, this
You're in the club.
this series did that. Like I said in the last video, it's just like, whoa, man, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was wrong in the way that communities all across the diaspora are like, yo, you're one of us. Like, and also just like realizing that how stupid would I feel in 20 years looking back, knowing I had the opportunity to voice a lot of things that don't have a voice. Beyond, you know, I've like made this corny little imagery in this recent article that someone interviewed me for this article on this like AAPI platform, and I had used this like corny imagery about the reef, and just like a lot of our stories end up in a chamber that doesn't stretch much farther than the reef. And then I have an opportunity here where most of my audience again is like Black, white, Latino, Asian from Netflix, 22 million active users a month. And that's more than there are Pasifika people on the planet. Yeah. And so the reality is that I have an opportunity here to cast a net that goes beyond the reef to hopefully just plant seeds that other people can do their thing with these stories. And I see it happening in real time. And now I recognize like, okay, not only does the outside audience see me as a doorway into this information, but so does the community. Yeah. The community sees me as a doorway into their world.
Listen, I've lost count the number of people who, you know, because so many of us have had these complicated relationships with identity and feeling like if we're enough or because of our upbringings and that. I'm like, you got to get the fuck over it. Like, honestly, we're all at different stages and it's okay. Yeah. I think the most important thing is, do you want to serve your people? You know, like, do you want to tap into this purpose that is going to uplift us however it looks?
But it is hard to, you know, get over those things when so much of your experience has been that you weren't enough or you didn't amount to enough lived experience. So I think another message I would echo outside of that is, remember that your fear guides you to something bigger a lot of the times, right? Like, fear is not an enemy. If anything, fear is an invitation for you to sit with some shit and really start to learn, you know, what's brewing. The other part of, like, I think your story I resonate with, Jay, is around when you take that vulnerable step for community to come at you and then they hug you and embrace you, then you're like, oh shit, like, okay, well,
I should have been here the whole time.
Right. What took me so long?
Right.
God damn.
35 years I've been over here like, I'm good.
Yes. I resonate with that. And they know, you know, like, community has been one of the biggest pushes in the work that I do, because like I said, I've been doing it for years, but it wasn't until I felt held by community that I was like, oh, bitch, y'all thought I did something then. Like, what do you see me with my community behind me? Yeah. Right? So I hope that it's a reminder to you of just the gift in leaning into your worries, your fear, or even your doubt of like, look what you did, right? Look what you called in. You allowed people to hold you in ways you didn't even know were possible. Right. So, I mean, it's a beautiful reminder of like, even those listening, like, if you can't just get over it, like, let somebody else help you.
But I said, do not take it. Right. She said, you know what? Prince of Perks doesn't work.
Right. That's it. Yeah, there's many approaches.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, there's certainly been a lot of release in the like, never would I thought that 31 days of iPhone selfie videos with a chopstick and a microphone would like be so significant in like little Jerry's experience. You know, like I think that there's all the metrics you could talk about, all the data that we pulled about how far this shit traveled is beautiful, and that is something to be celebrated and something that we should be leaning into to know that we got something that works here. But also like, dude, in the parts that no one could ever know except what I say with my mouth is the shit that's happening here. And just like, oh my gosh, man. And a lot of it too was like in my teenage years, being raised by Herschel in this Black community that I loved and loved me back, and I was part of a Black family, and I was Black in my eyes. I was like, so I needed everyone to know this, right? And so then I would get scared that if I went too hard on the Pasifika thing, not only would I feel like a straight, I don't know the term I'm looking for, like an almost like a cultural appropriator of my own culture, right? Not only would I feel that way, I also was scared that my Blackness would get erased.
I hate to say it, but a lot of people who
Make
make
their identity a brand.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
But they do it in a way that, especially if they're Black, they don't uplift their Blackness the same way that they do their Pasifika heritage.
Right, and I don't want that to happen, man, because like my daddy is such a significant part of my life, and and like I don't want him to get erased, let alone him being Black.
Yeah, yo, there's so many things that came up for me watching Rhythm and Flow, right? I mean, just in general, I'm always suspicious of any non-Black rappers, right? And I remember
You should be though.
I was talking to my friend Ben, and we're talking about your content. I was like, yo, I really like his content, but he looked like he said the N-word. And Ben was like, well, he didn't say it in the show. At least I was like, and then Ben said to me, oh, he's Black. And I was like, oh, I've got no place to comment on that in that case, right? But I do like that you are intentional about being honest that while you're Black, you don't want to engage with the culture in a way that gives other islanders permission to kind of fuck around with it.
Or Latinos or whatever else I might be perceived as.
Right.
Yeah. Like I just want to make art, but I also want to acknowledge that all of my art comes from both lived experiences and experiences of consumption of other people's lived experiences, right? Like Black music and Black art. And like there's no part of any of the music I make that is not rooted in Black art, period.
Which is why storytelling is so important, right? Because storytelling is our way of remembering where we come from, the sacrifices, our lineage, our experiences, way before our time, right? And our responsibility is to hold those stories as our truth and do better and elevate and grow, right? But we never lose track of the roots of that. And I think you emphasize that so beautifully, where we can also, you know, bring it back to this space and this conversation. That's why it matters.
Yeah.
That's why it's important we have guests like you in this space, right?
To
speak on these stories and to tell the stories that resonate with the folks we can't reach.
Right.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful gift you gave us today.
I appreciate it.
J. Taj, you have also created a new platform called the Pasifika Social Club, which has been birthed from this specific narrative project. So I'm curious to hear more about like what that is and what the vision is.
It's an opportunity for me to connect with more Pasifika storytellers and create an ecosystem, which is part of the mechanic of it, is like create an ecosystem and a platform for other storytellers to occupy, right? And it shouldn't just be me in this thing, right? I want to find more Pasifika people from all the different cultures across the diaspora that also want to tell stories in their way, food tutorials or travel videos or whatever, right? And this can be a fun way to create a group, if you will, or a collective, if you will, that can be interchangeable and have guests and all types of people that contribute to this social club. And then on the energetic side, not only is an opportunity for like I was so heavy on the Pasifika thing because of my own experiences as like, you ain't poly, you're Micronesian, or you know, and then Melanie was just being like left out of the conversation 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Like, and so the social club element is not only that to connect Pasifika as just like a wider, non-erasing umbrella, right? Like an umbrella that uplifts all the corners of the Pasifika map. And then the social club part of it is also an access point for everyone else, right? When I think back to like student unions and shit in high school, like the Black Student Union wasn't just for Black kids. This is also an opportunity for allies to be more equipped, and it's for people to be have a deeper and more intentional point of access to these things that they might be interested in or never knew anything about. And so when I realized that there was an opportunity for me to reach people beyond the reef, if you will, I'm like, okay, we need to create something here that they can follow into. That's not just J-Taj. And then that's part of the mechanic, right? It's like, I'm still a rapper and I can't just make my page only this, right?
Yeah.
And so I need to funnel people somewhere else where I can continue this work
Yeah.
and not be like, does bro even rap anymore? Does he even make music anymore? So that's it, right? And so right now it just exists as a separate social channel, but I have built a YouTube channel that is supposed to be the primary home for it, right?
Wow.
I'm supposed to be going to Guam next month for Liberation Day, and part of that is going to be a lot of filmmaking and like telling important stories outside of the 9x16 selfie camera, like real deep, longer than 3 minutes, like deep dives into many different stories. And I want to explore all the different angles of like teaching people the difference between tribal and or teaching people the difference between the Federated States of Micronesia and the Northern Marianas. And like these are things that I can use the same format, the same storytelling tactics, but in just like deeper, more long living ways, right? And I'm a filmmaker at heart, and I love to make films. And this is an opportunity for me to do that. And so that's essentially what Pasifika Social Club is supposed to be. And then
what I'm also hearing is you want to elevate the storytelling that's out there, right? Because I think our people are in need of that, right? And
man.
I think that's a really
there's no I can't find there's no easily accessible documentary about Chuk. There's no easily accessible documentary about Bikini Island that's not made in the fucking 80s. Right. And then if you go online and try to look up a video of Guam, which is a American territory, there's no deep dive except for an AJ Plus video that came out 7 years ago, and then like some random like Marine that's giving you a tour of like Agatna. There's nothing. And there should be, because we have incredible storytellers in the diaspora, and we have interesting and compelling stories that people from all over the world could and should tell. Right. And so I think it just need to like do it first or I shouldn't say first. I think that erases people out there that I just haven't discovered yet. But I should do it to the best of my ability and hopefully kick down the door. The same way that people have sent me videos, I have people from the queer community that have sent me videos like, I'm doing a video every day for 31 days this month because of you. And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Thank you. Right? That's so cool. Do that. And then I got like a follower that's a chef that's now doing 31 days of easy meals you can make for your kids. This whole thing is like, these are derivatives that I could have never planned for. And now this is all helping inform how I tell stories, and like maybe I might fuck around and, make a movie with, Luciana Buchanan or something.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, Luciana. By name, shit. And on that note,
bye.